This is the It's My Time podcast with Asher Tchoua.
Oh, uh, here we are, 2021. A
I
whole year's
know.
gone by.
I know. It's crazy, right?
Yep.
When did we last talk? Was it 2019 or was it 2020?
Mm, that's a good question. For some reason, I was thinking it was like the top of 2020 because it might have been 2019 though, because it was like right before brand prep.
Yes,
And
it was.
I want to say it was 2020 because I was up in Lansing for the extreme execution coaching. And I think that was
Okay.
like my second time going there for like a follow-up before I got shipped out.
Okay. So you're still in Georgia,
Yep.
outside of Atlanta,
Yep.
or what?
I'm in North Georgia, just like maybe 40 minutes outside of Chattanooga.
Okay. How do you
Yep.
like it down there?
It's good. I like it. Um, I guess being here now, it's kind of like where I grew up from high school. So the I appreciate the pacing more so now because it's like obviously when you're young and you're trying to get out of the small town, you want to go see the big city and things like that. It's like,
Right.
okay, you can go and there are things to enjoy in the big city. And I guess to
Mhm.
each his own. Um, for me, I like the slower pace at times. And it's like if I want to go see the big city, I know, hey, I've got a car. I could just
Right.
drive down there kind of like I did this past Saturday and then drive
Right.
back and it's like okay yeah, it was cool, it's cool to see, but I like things the way they are currently.
Have that option of you know, staying here in the small area, and then you can go to the city, enjoy the city, and come
Yeah,
back. I get it. I get it. I enjoy it too, but I need an in between. You know what I mean?
right,
I don't really like the country, and I'm not into the city.
right.
Um,
I mean
so
where I'm at is kind of that. It's I say quote unquote smaller town, like there are small towns, but like this one it's not Atlanta, it's not Marietta, it's not like the outskirt cities there where you have like 5,000 people high school. Well, I think our high school now might be at 5,000 kids or like 1,000
right,
kids, but it's like whenever I graduated, it was the graduation class was like I want to say either, well, I know it's a big jump, but it was is either 1,600 or 100. I'm thinking maybe closer to 1,600, but it's like that's kind of like the in between where other schools would be at 100, and I guess that's really a small town. So when I say small, small in comparison to Atlanta. So
right.
it's like I guess another benefit with that is like given what 2020 was, it's kind of like being in a smaller town or being kind of removed where a lot of the things that would be like every social event that's happening, every cultural event, like it just ripples through big cities. It's like being in a smaller city that's not the effect as much. And it's like, regardless of what's going on, of course, you have the protocols and everything that people are doing. But
Hmm.
I think there's, especially being in the South, it's like people have a better respect for people to where it's like they might not agree with you, but they're not so bold to just get in your face and just tell you like, oh, you need to be doing this. Like as
Right.
I've heard with people doing in like the Midwest and Chicago, where it's like you could be across the street and somebody's like, because they heard so and so say this or that, it's like I'm gonna come let you know like you're not doing this right and whatnot, and
Right.
then wag my finger in your face or scream in your face, and it's like you need to get a hold of yourself. Like,
Yeah, it's right because, but I was raised in Alaska. However, that mentality of you're going to do this
mhm,
was still in my household.
true,
So I can't say that it's so much so like the atmosphere or the environment of a city.
right,
It's
right,
just
definitely not,
how my mom was. And so
right,
now I'm trying to, and I think it's always evolving. I'm changing how I parent. And not only that, I'm changing the way in which I present myself
Mhm.
and converse with others when it comes to a difference of opinion.
Mm.
So um, I don't want to do this and
Right.
shake my neck and be all black with it. I don't want to do that because it's not becoming, right? It's not even how we are supposed to evolve and how we are supposed to grow. We are supposed to be one that wants to grow up and be emotionally mature.
Right.
I don't know if that's emotionally mature, but some people would argue and say, well, I'm emotionally mature. I can do all this. And I'm like,
Right. I
that is
remember
not
the last time you were telling me about you didn't want to beat the old lady up at the school. It's like,
oh my gosh, right?
right.
Yes, because people be down here, Southern people have this way of being shady and dismissive
Right.
in their tone and in their words. And
Right.
they act as though you do not get it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything doesn't mean that I don't see what you're doing.
Right. Like
Just means
somebody said, I think whenever somebody says, "Oh, God bless," or "bless his heart," or something like that, it really means "f you,"
yes.
but like in a very nice tone. Like you'd
But
be like,
is it
"Oh,
really
thank
nice
you."
or is it condescending?
It's really condescending, and it's I guess that goes to your point where it's like everything's kind of relative. And like I was
Mhm.
saying, there are things about the South, obviously, that are it has its history and whatnot. But there are other
Right.
things that I kind of appreciate because, like, I coming right out of college, I went to the Midwest for 2 years, and it
Right.
was like that was the landscape, like the physical landscape was very different because the Midwest is flat, like
Right.
flat, like you look that way, that way, you just
And
see
it's
for miles
flat.
and miles. And it's like,
Right.
yeah. So then after being away for like say 3 or 4 months or 9 months and like driving home over a break, and it was like, oh wow, there are hills. Oh my God, there are mountains. And then finally coming
So
back after 2 years and like um I had kind of a rough stint starting out in Louisiana for 4 months, and like people were just mean and rude. And I was like, what is going on? And I remember going up to Coney Island and like come to find out later that's kind of the vibe there where it's just like,
mhm.
hey, there's not much customer service here. It's like, you want food? You get food and you get out. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not like, hey, how are you doing? How y'all? Like this, that, and the other. It's like, nope. What do you want?
And that's what I can appreciate about being in Texas, because I moved from Alaska to Washington, and they're really curt. They're really to their, they get to the point really quick in Washington, or they ignore you.
Mm,
Um, so there's no in between. But here, although it's shady and it's
yeah,
condescending, I can appreciate that people speak to you.
true.
Still, I don't know you or where you're from, but hi, how are you doing? And that's in itself, that's genuine. I can feel the genuine, where that's coming from. But other than that,
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I
Well,
don't
I
know.
mean,
And so I just
you're right.
keep to myself for the most part because it's like, I don't know where you're coming from. And so
Right.
until I understand where you're coming from, it's going to be a hi, how you doing? I'm good. How about you?
Right.
And we're going to
Right.
leave it at that.
Right.
But
Because
I
what
can
is it? The other
appreciate
thing with small towns is like you definitely have the everybody's in everybody's business. So it's like be careful who you tell what, because very soon like you'd be all over town. They're like, oh, I heard you were over here and you were doing this and this and that. And it's like, whoa, I don't know you like that. I
right.
don't know you like that. So it's like let's pump the brakes for a minute
Mhm.
and back up, like introduce yourself. Hi, my name is such and such, and if we want to sit down and have a conversation, we can. But
Right.
I think to your point, the thing that kind of comes out of that is just so long as you meet a genuine person, regardless of where they're from, where they're located, it's like good people are good people. Like I found some good people in the Midwest. that's what made me enjoy my time there.
Right.
And then going up to I was thinking the other day, it's like, where have I been since like leaving town and coming back? And it's like, okay, I went to Lake Charles, went to Donaldsonville, St.
Mm-hmm.
James area, then went up to Plainfield, just outside Chicago. And then there's this town called like Oswego.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where the names kind of change a bit. And I'd gone to Milwaukee to visit just for like the weekend, and all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden you get the French accent maybe coming down, and you start to hear like the
Really?
different accents where it's like they'll say uh, beg instead of bag, and meeting different people like from Maine, where of course people say soda or pop in the Midwest instead of,
Right.
they say pop instead of soda, I think, or they'll say Coke for all soft drinks instead of just like Coca-Cola.
Right. I noticed that. That's so funny. But my kids, especially my youngest, he says pop. I'm like, that is not even how we talk in here. Like, where do you get that from? I don't like that word. But it is what it is. You're on mute. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. I just did that for a second.
Oh, okay. You must have like, are you there by yourself or you have like background noise there with you?
I don't think I have much background noise. Does it sound like it, or
No, no,
gotcha,
no, no, it doesn't.
gotcha.
No.
I just
No,
I
I
just
got some
muted
noise.
out for a second. I didn't know if I was gonna yawn or something, so I didn't want to, because it's I was telling you I'm working I'm working the night shift now, so it's like starting Monday night. The shift is from like 7:30 to 6 a.m. the
Mhm.
following morning. So then
Right.
it's like I'll get home, say 7 o'clock or so, depending on how far I've got to drive. And I usually try to get to sleep immediately. So it's like today, the sleep caught me about 8 o'clock. So I slept
Mhm.
till about 11. I was gonna try and force myself to go back to sleep, but luckily I stayed awake for a bit, and then I soon got a phone call from the tax guy, and it was like,
Mhm.
oh great, it's like, okay, we got the taxes ready. Here's what's gonna happen, and yeah, we're gonna move forward with that. And it's like cool. And then yesterday, talking with the financial planner or financial advisor, it's like, okay, cool. Like, make sure I get this right. And I was like,
Right.
okay, those are my tasks for the week. So
Mhm.
send the forms back and do that. And if nothing else, it helps me to, I guess, catch a nap in the morning, run some errands while businesses are still open, and then catch a nap in the afternoon. So say like once we wrap up like 3 o'clock, I'll probably force myself to go to sleep, and then wake up about 5:30 or so, get things
Well,
ready
how
for work
far
and
is your
go.
drive?
It depends, because I recently started working at Home Depot
Mhm.
as finding something locally to do, get myself out of the house, get active, get moving. So it's like
Yeah.
the closest one to me here in town is 10 minutes away. But
Okay.
then I work in the uh like the merchandising team, where like
Okay.
basically we get to we get a chance to like reorganize the store based on what's going on. So like since it's spring season right now, like for the past month we've been organizing the store for like, oh, these are the items that people would want for the spring
Mhm.
season. So like you put up
Okay.
fans, you put up like the gardening tools and stuff like that, all the
Okay.
cleaning products. And it's like it's so cool to see how it happens in like this store setting, because it's like, oh, okay, that's how you do it. And
Mhm.
everywhere where I go now, it's like, okay, I'm in Costco, I'm in Walmart, I'm in this store, I'm in that store. And it's like, oh, I see. Okay. I get what they're doing there.
Oh, okay. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm hoping crossing, and I don't even like the last time we talked, I don't know if I was telling you that I was going to be a teacher or what, because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't sold. And I'm
Mm.
still not sold because w- I think why?
Right.
But it wasn't my choice to become a teacher. So hopefully come August I am a full-blown high school teacher
Gotcha.
or
So,
middle school teacher. Um
but it's
but
still
high
not your
school kids,
choice.
It's still, no, being
Gotcha.
a teacher was not my choice. I actually wanted to be an IT project manager. I love coding. And so I
Right.
wanted to just do that.
Right.
And
Right.
I thought that that was my calling. But, God had other plans for me. You are
Gotcha.
a teacher. And
Right.
so I'll have my master's degree in education come January. No,
Hmm.
January through March is my next year is my last semester. So I'll be done
Okay.
next March.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'll be a math teacher next year, but this year I'll be teaching, hopefully, cross my fingers, I'll be teaching business.
Right.
It's just crazy to me. It's just so
Yeah.
crazy, but I'm just, it's just interesting that I'm going into this field because I just never thought about it, but it's
Hmm.
kind of more interesting because now I get the relationship with the principal. And it's like you get this relationship with the principal where your teacher, your coworker is not so much student principal, and you go to the principal's office to be most of the time you're in trouble.
Hmm.
So I'm interested in the dynamic of
Right.
being the teacher
Hmm.
versus the student.
Right.
So
Right. So it's
that is,
like you go into the principal's office more frequently now, but it's like you're not in trouble. You're just checking in.
yes. And so that's the interesting piece to it all, and really more so managing kids,
Right.
because my personality is, listen,
Right.
we can go to blows here because kids are, their mouth is, it's on another level. And these
Oof.
kids nowadays, Cardi
Yeah.
B is their model.
Ooh. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
Cardi B and Offset is their go-to, and it's just not good. It's
Yeah.
not good. It's just not
I
good.
guess it's funny. I think I listened to an album of Cardi B's, like maybe her first one that she put out, because it's kind of like from ET had mentioned it on like a podcast or something, and I was like, oh, I'm curious because it's like I was telling a friend, like a coworker the other day or last week, I think, like I didn't really grow up with music like that, so I was introduced to it
Right.
through high school, and like I
Mhm.
started diving into it a little bit more in college to be like, okay, let me go through some albums, some popular ones, find out like what I like, what I don't like. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I like her first album because I was like, I like the realness of it. And then I listened to the track that they kind of brought up and like, that's interesting. But then like, of course you get a lot of the ratchetness with it. And I was like, that's just, it's not me. So as much as I might want to learn, and this is like, you don't need to learn everything. Like there's some things you just need to leave alone. Like you're not ready for that. So just leave it
Yeah.
alone and keep it moving.
Yes. And that's the part I just, the ratchetness of it all.
Yeah.
And uh, the leaving your body parts um to the imagination.
Right.
There's nothing to imagine because she shows everything.
True.
And then on top of that, she talks about
Right.
it. So you just know.
Right.
And I don't like that and I know she didn't set out to be a role model, but essentially
Yeah.
she is.
Right. Right.
So, and then there's the male counterparts that they
Yeah.
talk about how they like their women. And these
True.
girls then turn into being, I
That.
want to be that because that rapper, I like that
Right.
rapper. I want
Right.
to be that rapper's girlfriend or wife. And it's like, God, please.
Yeah.
What?
I
What are
feel
you guys
like
thinking?
I, I guess it's one of those things where it's like a lot of times I feel like from time to time I get maybe ragged on, or like I used to feel bad about not knowing or being part, but like similar to it, it's like I'm learning to be okay with who I am and
Right.
just not want to fit in so much, because it's like as hard as you try to fit in, you try to get rid of the things that make you you. And
Yeah.
it's like whenever you become an adult, you're like, oh, I wish I was different. And it's like, well, you are different, but you made yourself into this thing where it's like, okay, now you're regretting or remorseful for the choices you made. And then it's
Right.
like you start to take it out on other people. And you're like, of course you take things out on your parents because it's like they may or may not have treated you the way you wanted to. But part of that, it's like, okay, your friends are telling you, you should be like this, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And then the same people later on, like, it's always the people that seem like they got it all together. And then you realize they don't, because they're following a plan. And it's like, it's not always clear what that plan or who that role model is. And as we've seen in the past few years, like a lot of people, like people we've seen as good, bad, or indifferent, like a lot of people got put on the chopping block. And it's really a lesson to not worship people, because it's like, at the end of the day, everyone's human. Like, as much as,
Yeah.
like, my buddy from work was telling me this yesterday. He's like, he doesn't really like the concept of people worshiping other people, where it's like, okay, everyone is like, oh, Beyonce is the queen bee, it's like, she's my queen, she's my this, she's my that. It's like, she's almost becoming your idol. And it's like, people talk about being kings themselves or queens, but it's like, you're not really a king or a queen if you're sitting here putting this person over you.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of what their status is, it's like, that's a human, that's a person. Like, they
Mhm.
put on their clothes one pant leg at a time. They
Just
use
like
the
we do.
bathroom just like you do. They put on their
Yep.
socks. It's like, if maybe I
I
should
know.
leave this alone. I was gonna say like
No,
something.
it's good because
No,
I
I
think
was gonna
about
say
that
something in
too.
regards to R. Kelly. It's like, in the
Oh,
scandals that he got into, and how some people were just like, oh, if it was me, I'd just let him. And I was like, yeah, it's like, I don't want to psychoanalyze you right now, but it's like, something about that just doesn't sit right with me. Like, to,
mhm.
I guess, and I guess part of the conversation yesterday was, somehow got into what uh fetish fetishes are, or what's the difference between a fetish and a preference. Somebody just asked the question, and I was like, I don't know, but I know somebody else here for sure knows. And then the way that, I'll just call him like the grand poobah, the way he explained it, I was like, huh, that makes sense. And if a lot of things we don't understand, or a lot of things I haven't understood, it's always put in a negative connotation. And it's
Mhm.
like, I guess sometimes you can scare people out of like, oh, don't do this. And then it's like, they don't do it. But then, what did I say? Curiosity always kills the cat.
Kills the
Or,
cat, yeah.
so it's like, definitely in the South, the irony is that, um, sex before marriage is always preached as taboo.
Right.
But then you have the highest teenage pregnancy rate in the same area, like in the Bible Belt. So it's like, what's going on? It's like, okay, well, I think it started out with the right intent, like,
Right.
don't have sex outside of marriage. But it's like, to not talk about it and to just act like, oh, that's that thing over there. It's like,
Mhm.
you can't sit here and try and pretend to tell kids. It's like, okay, well, the stork brought you in and this and that. And it's like, sure, it's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but either you take the time to educate your child,
Right.
or the world is going to educate them. And then you're going
Right.
to have to be remorseful with what follows. Because when that happens, it's like, you start cursing the world, you start cursing this. Is like, no, you might want to curse yourself. Like,
Yeah.
you're the
Right.
one that kind of dropped the ball.
I say that too. And I'm that type of parent that, like, for instance, my 14-year-old sent me a text, and it talked about this guy. I don't know the proper the PC term for this, but what
No, we're
guys
not.
do.
I'm not even trying to be PC. Every time I hear that, I'm just like, just get out of here with that. Like,
Okay. Well,
but I
he
mean,
was,
I'm not trying to be also just like, just be yourself.
be myself. Well,
Yeah.
then if I'm gonna be myself, he was just jacking off.
Yeah.
And so he was talking about that and how he had just finished. And I was like, listen, I love that you feel open to um send me stuff like this, but his 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 words were a little too vulgar for me.
Mhm.
Um, but on the other hand, that is how I parent. I am open. I want my kids to talk about everything.
Right.
You know, because I only have boys. I do not have girls. And so I want them to be able to come to me. My oldest is like that. He has talked to me about everything,
Hmm.
everything. And I'm like, okay, I don't, because, and I think I'm like that because I wasn't able to be that with my parents. And I want my kids to know that it's okay because it's natural. Sex is natural, hormones are natural. None of this is fake. And if the Bible Belt
Yeah.
viewed viewed had their perception different, I think that kids would be less um, secretive about what they do,
Right.
and teen pregnancy would not be on the rise
Right.
because I being down here and down in the South and going to this church that I go to, there are some members that say sex is taboo, and I say, well, how do you think you got here?
Right.
Nobody in this world is married.
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah.
So how do you think you got here? Do you think your parents just immaculate conception?
They
Doesn't
just high
happen.
fived and you popped up.
Right. Are we? Yeah. Right.
Well, I say that because it's like that's where my mindset was in fifth grade, where before it's like we had, I think that's around the time when um everyone's kind of going through puberty and they figure it's the time to show everyone the video. So it's like, okay, obviously other kids have heard from like older their siblings and things like that, or they've been educated through their home. But like for me, I hadn't been educated. And it's
Hmm.
like I went in very naive and I was like, what? Sex? Like for me, sex was just like evil, evil, evil.
Yeah.
Like it's just like you don't do it, you don't do it, you don't do it. That's the only thing I knew about it. So then it's like, and then somebody kind of confronted me. They're like, well, for you to be here, your parents had to. I was like, no, 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 don't put that in my mind. And I was
You
just
hear
like,
about it.
right. But it's like, I guess over time, it's like you slowly have to be like, okay, well, this is I mean, this is what it is, and this is what it's not. Like,
Right.
sex is not porn, is not that
Right.
make believe fantasy that people make, because it's like,
Right.
okay, if you don't understand what it is, and then you start leaning on that so much, then like that starts to create a lot of other problems,
Hmm.
because then it's like, okay, you think again, kind of going to the doing things in secret, it
Yep.
manifests all this other stuff,
Yep.
because and then it's like
That's
unless you deal with it later, it just continues to
and by
become an
then I
issue.
think you've gotten yourself into so many um, bad decisions,
Yeah.
and you can't take them back. Once you do it, you can't take them back. And um, I don't know if it's more women than men, but as a teenage mom, I wasn't taught, and so I was like, how do I say no?
Mm.
And so that was like something that I had to deal with later on after
Hmm.
I had my kid. And so,
Gotcha.
now I'm just like, how do I teach my kids? Because I wasn't taught. And so
Right.
I need to know for myself. And I say that sex is natural.
Hmm.
You're a teenager, you're going to go through these things, and it's normal. It's okay.
Hmm.
You like girls? Okay, that's normal. You
Right.
like boys? It's not that it's not normal. However, you're going to have to live different. I don't
Right.
have any of that right now, but if it were to come out,
Hmm.
I would love, and I know that I would love them the same. I that's you. You're
Right.
going to have to be safe, and but sex is sex,
Yeah.
and I don't think you should have sex just randomly. But
Right.
if it comes to that, then okay, what do you
Right.
want me to do? You know what I mean? You
Right.
made the decision. You can't change that.
Right. Right.
So that's how I take it on. It's like sex is sex.
Yeah.
Like it's not bad. People make it seem like it's so bad. And
Right.
then when you do it, you're like, but I like it. Well, of course. Of course.
Right. But
Well,
I
I
guess,
don't know.
yeah, I know, I guess I could see a lot of the perspectives that come in, because it's like if you look at I'm maybe I should just leave this alone, because it's like I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not like I wouldn't even know how to attack it, but just from hearing what other people have said and kind of seeing the approach, like more times than not, usually when sex becomes the driving factor for a lot of relationships, it's like they kind of tend to fall apart because
Yep.
there wasn't anything else built up there. And what's
Yep.
funny is like I got on the this men's prayer line this morning, and one thing one of the guys mentioned was that there's the four kinds of love where you have the, I think it's the agape love or the agape love, which is like the
Mm-hmm.
unconditional love.
Yeah.
You have
I've heard
the
that.
you have the sexual love. I forget what the name for it is, or like the physical attractiveness. Like
Yeah.
that's there and it can be there for a time. You have
Yep.
the friendship love, which is like, hey, my best friend,
Yeah.
you spend time together and things like that. It's like that's a kind of love in itself. And it's like, I guess the fourth love for people that are married would be the like love for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like part of, I think he made a correlation between arranged marriages that work out much longer than the marriages that we maybe do in the West, where it's like it's not arranged, but people go into it with the thing of like, oh, I'm marrying the person I love. And it's like there may be a misconception as to where you go in um trying to become like, I guess the goal is you're supposed to go into it trying to become one, like as one, but you're not. A lot of people go in trying to become the same thing where it's like, okay, I'm going in, this person has this over here, this person has this, it's like I'm going to try to change that. It's like,
Yeah.
no, like you better you better leave their stuff alone and learn to deal with you and see
Mhm.
if that like if in
Yeah, but how does that work with arranged marriages? Because some
oh
of the culture,
right,
they start them out young, right?
well, I don't know about the age difference, but the point that he made about arranged marriages is that as much as we try to start with the different forms of love and like come into being something, it's like with the arranged marriages, they don't, a lot of times they don't know each other. So it's like they have to go from, okay, we're in this thing together. Now we have to build these levels. So it's like they almost have to build a foundation from scratch where it's like, okay, since we're set up to be together and this is the agreement, like obviously we've got to become friends. And it's like I've got to agree to love you unconditionally, like not just when I feel like it, which that's been a tough one for me where it's like whether it's um loving family or loving friends, it's like it's convenient to love or be loving, and I guess a lot of people take that word to mean a lot of things, but it's like to really care about somebody when they make you mad or when you don't feel at your best, it's like it really takes something to get over yourself and to kind of be like, okay, like I still need to show up. Like as a parent, I think that maybe comes a little bit more naturally since it's like it's an obligation. But say if you're
How does one do that and be there's so many attractions. You're
right.
physically attractive to a person, you're emotionally attractive to a person. A person like for me, for instance,
Mhm.
I have to communicate. I need to know where you are emotionally.
Right.
Um,
And
because that's me. I like to talk in depth. Like I need it. And
right,
it's
right.
something that so
I think to your
how do you
point,
know?
I think to your point, that's where you would have to start because it's like with an arranged marriage, now I think I might be reading into it. So I'm not quoting on this, but if I'm reading into what he's saying, it's not that you would know. It's basically like you're starting. So now in communicating and who and how you are and who you are, if you're trying to communicate and like you want to have those deep conversations, like you would have to have those over the course of your lifetime being married. And it's like that those conversations would probably build that physical attraction, that emotional attraction. And it's like it's a weird different take on it because it's like I guess where we're at in our culture is that you get what you want. Like, this is what I want, like this perfect thing or this ideal thing. And it's like, well, when that kind of gets taken away, or when you don't have that option to start, you have to, like, if obviously with an arranged marriage, it's like you're placed into a situation where you have to get to what you want because there isn't another option, essentially.
Right.
So it's like you either do or you don't. So you can be arranged and suffer and just be like, I got to do this because my parents did it. Or it's like you can get over that fact and get to know the person and just grow and not treat them with the same emotions and baggage and stuff that you would have had towards the people that set up the arrangement. That's
I
my
agree.
nicest way of trying to put a bow on it.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. And to that, I would say, I guess it is best if, the parent choose.
Well, no,
that.
I wasn't advocating for it. I was just saying, like,
No, I get it.
the regard, it's like that makes sense because for me personally, I don't know if I'll tell it on here, but maybe one day I will. But like, I almost ended up in an arranged situation, and I was like, I wasn't happy about that. And I was
Yeah.
like, first of all, I get what you're trying to do, but it's one thing if we had a relationship where we communicated
Yeah.
openly, frequently. Like,
Right.
if we had that, I could understand a little bit more.
Right.
I'd still be like, okay. And I guess it's kind of like a maturity point where I had to be like, okay, like, when you say no to something, you've got to stand on what you say and can't be so stuck on trying to please people. But
Yeah.
for me, I was just like, this just came out of the blue. Like, we don't talk on a weekly basis. We rarely talk on a monthly basis. And then all of a sudden, you're introducing me to somebody that you just met on a whim. And then next thing you know, it's like this person is getting invited here to our home the weekend. I guess I am going to get into it. The weekend of my sister's wedding. And I was like, what is going on? And then I go to spend more time with family, and I'm getting a call from this person. Not only that, it's like prior to this, I was getting harassed by this person on Facebook. And it's like after this whole weekend wedding event thing, I'm getting harassed on the phone through your phone that you're allowed to have this person talk to me. And then I'm getting harassed online on Facebook. I'm blocking, and then I'm getting this family member calling and that family member. And I'm just like, okay, like, I know why I said no, because it's like you put an idea in somebody else's head that you didn't consult me about.
Right.
And it's like that. I don't know. I've never heard anyone's story on this, and I would love to probably hear where it worked out and where it went terribly wrong. But it's
I
like,
would like to hear it
yeah,
too, because let me tell you, being attracted to someone that somebody else picked for me would be hard.
mhm,
But I can see too how some may like it that way. They don't have to worry about, because they know and they trust their parents.
right,
That part I can see. But getting to know somebody after I've married them
mhm,
would
that's
never be an
difficult.
option,
Right,
because people are good liars.
true.
And I can see both sides to it. I can see both sides to it. This is my youngest, Luke.
Hey, Luke.
So go do your work. Go do your work. Go in your room. Yes, because nope, because you want to hear my conversation. Get out. No.
Always
out.
ear hustling.
Yes, he is good for it. And he's good for really twisting or taking adults' perception on things and making it his own.
I guess that's kids 101.
Oh my goodness, he's got it down. He has got it down. So he's the one I have to watch out for. He's the one that's going to be sneaking out of windows. He's the one that thinks he can rewrite the book
Yeah.
and no one's the wiser. It's like,
Right.
what are you doing? So yeah. Um, but yeah, this I would love to know and talk to someone when it comes to how an arranged marriage worked and
Mhm.
how it didn't,
Right.
because I'm not in that culture, and so yeah, I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know because right now we live around a lot of, and I don't know if it's Indian people
Hmm.
or people from India.
Mm. I
You know,
see
I
what
don't
you're saying.
know.
What
I
the
don't know where.
terminology is.
Yeah. So we live around a lot of that, and I don't know that culture.
Right.
I don't know if they like us, if
Hmm.
they hate us.
Right.
I don't know.
Got you.
So, and I'll find out here soon because my boys are changing schools, and so
Hmm.
they, they're in a more diverse area,
Got
and
you.
so we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how it all plays out. I'm hoping that I get to know their culture in a good way.
Right. It's funny. You just reminded me. I maybe need to reach out to this friend of mine, but I believe he was born in India. We went to um, elementary school, at least fifth grade through high school together, and I want to say he has an Indian background, and he may have gone through the arranged marriage process. So I could maybe he might be a good person for me to ask and be like, "Hey,
That
Vinny,
would be a
like,
good
how did
podcast.
how how is that going?" Because one thing that I know I shared with you last time, a big thing that I've been getting into is psychology. And that's a topic that I really enjoyed in college, but sometimes I guess maybe I didn't look at it favorably because I was like questioning my ability to do it. And it's funny, one of my nicknames, or my main nickname growing up in Cameroon and around my parents, has always been teacher.
Mhm.
And it's weird when people kind of give you a name. It's like, obviously my name is Happy and teacher, and it's like at times I do those things and I feel best, but
Right.
then when it's like I have to take a step back and see like, okay, how do you make this into a career, or um how do you express happiness when you're frustrated, when you're just angry, when you're kind of folding into yourself. And it's like, okay, I think that's what I'm learning now, and kind of learning to put pride to the side, because that was another thing. Like, I'd had an assignment, royally messed it up, just doing something simple, but it's like you either sped through it too quickly or you were distracted. And then when you get called out on it, you're kind of cussing yourself, but then you start snapping at other people. And it's like, don't get snappy at me. I didn't mess it up. You messed it up. And it's like, you need to wear this on your face, and rightfully so. And I guess whenever I heard that, I was kind of like, yeah, you're right. I'm wrong.
We have to be
And
accountable, right? For
it
every
took a minute to,
decision.
what's that?
We have to be accountable for
Right.
every decision we make, and wearing it is a good thing because I bet you didn't do it again. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that's my hope. I won't do it again, because that was last night, and tonight I guess I'll see. But I'll definitely be
Oh, this
paying.
is a recent
Right.
assignment.
This last night.
Oh,
Last night.
okay. Oh,
Yeah.
this is
I think
recent.
I turned a 1 hour project into like 8 hours because I made a goof, and I moved things that I shouldn't because I didn't check the whole list. But
Yeah.
the thing from it is, I definitely learned from it, especially it's like, admit when you're wrong and really take stock into when you have that little voice inside telling you like, stop, like,
Yeah.
check again. Because it's like, if you're checking, okay, this isn't here, this isn't here, this isn't here, it's like, don't just keep going with the brute force method thinking, okay, it's all wrong, I'm gonna fix it, I gotta get
Yeah.
it right, I was given the task. It's like, maybe you interpreted something too much into what you were told, and
Hmm.
like, stop, step back, and just stop. Because I know that's how I injured myself for the first time on a job, where it was like, I was working on a ladder, supervisor's holding the ladder, and then as we're finishing up, it's like maybe I think he stepped away from the ladder for a minute, and I'm like, can't just leave me up here. What are you doing? And I was like, okay, let me get down. Like, let me get down, because it's like he stepped out, he needed to get something. So I was like, okay, I got down, no problem.
Right.
But then I got it in my head, I was like, there's something not right about that situation. Let me sit and wait for him. But then
Mhm.
I got that ego again in my head that's like, oh, well, since he's going out, like you always want to be the diligent hard worker, like go ahead and set up on the next thing. And I was
Mhm.
like, no, like I was like, well, you didn't hold the ladder, and I was able to finish up what I was doing. And I was like, kind of sitting there. It's like, if you would have just sat with it for 5 more minutes, you would have been fine. But then go up, set the ladder, and it's like before long, you just tick, tick, tick. The ladder slips out from under you, and now you're sitting there like, ooh, like, uh, like now I've got like this mini fracture in my elbow. I didn't know it at the time. It's just like it quickly swelled up, so I had to get some ice on it and that. And it's like, okay, well, I was like, here's what happened. So what do we do? Like, you're supposed to go through safety. You're supposed to report it.
Right.
That's a
Right.
recordable. And then it's like, I guess I was willing to say it's like I goofed, and obviously I have to wear that because it's like now I have the proof. This is what I'm gonna wear. My arm hurts,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then it's like, okay, um, what do we do now? Like, who do we talk to? And this is like, well, and I kept getting the sense from the supervisor where he's like he wasn't really proactive about it, and
Mhm.
I was like, kind of, I was I don't know if I was blaming him. I wasn't trying to put the whole blame on him, but I was like, you kind of left me up there. And it's like, I made the mistake to go back up. So here's what happened. We need to like report it, right?
Right.
But then it's like, maybe just put the ice on it and see how it feels. And I was like, it feels really tight. So it's like, try the best to move it, try not to let it stiffen up. So now I'm riding back to
So
school. Go
did
ahead.
you, but this was a while ago?
Yeah, this was 2013, my year of
Oh, okay.
graduation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Did
This
you
is
ever
what
get a cast on that?
No, so what happened is like I rode
Oh.
back, and I got it. I went locally and got it checked out because I was like, I think I should probably get it checked out, right? Just to make sure everything's right. I don't want to
Mhm.
have more damage be there and just wait because
Yeah.
we don't know. And
Right.
then that's where I found out that it was just like a radial fracture at the tip of my elbow, and I didn't need to wear a cast. I just had a sling to where it was
Oh,
immobilized
okay.
for 2 weeks. And then
Yeah.
from there, it's like, and it was my right hand, my writing hand, a week,
Mhm.
the week that I was supposed to take the fundamentals engineering exam. So I was
Mhm.
like, oh geez, but kind of going on autopilot and thinking like, you got a job to do and you got to finish it. So it's
Yeah.
writing the first time I guess I was legitimately riding like this, the lowrider, and having my elbow on the center console with ice and just
Yeah.
moving my fingers and everything, rolling it back and forth, get home, take a shower. It's like that was the hardest shower ever to take because like a hand hurts. So it's like
Oh,
trying
wow.
to wash and then get dressed, put Bengay on it, just lather it up, wrap it up because I'm
Yeah.
like immobilize it, but also keep the smell down because I've got to go meet, like sit down in this auditorium. I'm just sitting there like, yep,
You had a
got to
lot
take
going
notes.
on.
Right. And it was like, just kind of went through that. And by, I think I went, saw the doctor Wednesday. By Thursday, I was like, yeah, this 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 is the situation. I just kept reporting back, and I was like, okay, do I need to reach out to the hiring manager or my supervisor, or are you going to do that since you were the supervisor on the job? It's like,
Yeah.
I'll do it kind of the same passiveness. And then come Saturday, the test day, we had an 8-hour test, go in first thing in the morning, I think this is the first time I'm wearing the sling in public because I'm trying not to draw attention to myself. And people are like, oh man, what happened? It's like, you're left-handed, right? I'm like, nope. It's like, how are you going to take the test? I was like, it'll be okay. So it's like, go in there, take the
So was
test.
this like stuff that you had to, when I think
Mhm.
engineering, I do not think written test.
Oh yeah.
I presume that it's, some type of physical activity where you are putting things together, engineering things together. So
Nope.
it is a written test that
Yeah. I think now it's
wow.
computer based, but it's an 8-hour written test. You have a morning section that's general where it's like all engineers, like you basically like your physics, your thermodynamics, your statics, dynamics, those the basic courses that all engineers are required to take. You have that. It's probably one of the hardest tests because it's like taking all your college knowledge, but it's
Condensed
easy
into a
it's
test.
easy in the fact that like you're doing it while you're in
Mhm.
college, and when you take it your senior year, it's like it's still fresh in your mind because you're practicing it. And then the afternoon section, you do the um your specific discipline. So mine is civil engineering. So we go through and you do structures for like building structures, you do transportation, you do geotechnical for soils, you do environmental engineering, you do um, construction engineering. There's a portion on that. Like that's what you're taught, that's under the umbrella in civil engineering. But when you actually graduate the civil engineering profession, that's land development, site planning. Like you don't learn any of that in school, at least not where I went. But that's something that they kind of, or with anything, they teach you on the job. But
Yeah.
like all the other things that kind of go into their separate discipline.
So do you do this? You said you work at Home Depot. Do you do engineering? I can't remember
No,
if you said you
not at Home Depot, but like right out of college, I did engineering. So I went to work with a construction company, and right off the bat, I went to a fabrication shop for I
yeah,
think for 4 months. So
yeah.
there, it's like they requested 12 engineers to come there, but immediately they had put in a stop work order where it's like the conditions were seen as very um, unfriendly for employees, where people felt like they couldn't be open because it's like, you have like the employee concerns program where you're supposed to be able to like challenge things that are wrong, but like
Right.
everybody, especially the supervisors, were so much by like fly by the seat of their pants. Like the
How
company
can
that
that
I
be in engineering? Engineering seems like it's a lot like project management.
right
It's planned.
right it
How do you fly by the seat of your pants?
Well, no, I'm saying
Yeah.
like the project managers were flying by the seat of their pants. So like to give you an example, it's like the company that this company, I'm sure it's like recorded. So it's like I think it was the Shaw Group. They were a construction company that was like young and vibrant. Like they just had people, they basically built this fabrication shop, which was like state of the art
Yeah.
in maybe 4 months. And the guy that did it, he told us the story later where it's like he drew like a rough sketch of the plans on a napkin, and they shook hands and signed a deal for like $4 million or something to be like, this needs to get built in 4 months. And they're like, go. So it's like
Wow.
in anything that you're supposed to build, they say you can either do it good, fast, or um or you're gonna have to pay a lot, I think. But
I mean, I
there's a way
get
to
some
say it.
things.
So
I
it's like
get
they
some
went
things,
fast
but
and
not everything. Wow.
right. So it's like they went the speed approach, and it's like every time you go fast and you ignore the quality, you've got to do a
Yeah.
lot of reworks. And now you're talking
Yeah.
about nuclear construction, and
Yeah.
that's you have to be able to account where something came from its creation to the time it's going to be in its final resting place in the installation. So it's like
Right.
if you lose any kind of paperwork during that process, you got to start all over. It doesn't matter
Oh
what
my
it is. It doesn't
gosh.
matter if it's a $10 thing or a $10 billion thing. The entire thing gets scrapped. And it's like that's how a lot of money got lost because a lot of people were brought in. Of course, you always have this person's a friend of this person and they don't have any idea. And like, again, people flying by the seat of their pants, not hiring quality people. So what did they do? They started hiring a lot of quality people, like PhDs, bachelor degrees, master's degrees, like all these smart engineers, all these smart people. But it's like
Yeah.
there was little direction as to like, this is where they need to go. This is what they need to do. They just figured you got a degree, you're smart, come
You
in and
do.
fix
Go
our
do it.
problems. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the people that hired me, he was initially on this job. He was supposed to go in and basically, since Chicago Bridge and Iron, they bought this company, the Shaw Group, and they'd been buying companies up over the years to kind of continue to establish themselves as like one of the top 4 or 5 top engineering firms in the world you never hear about, but like
Mhm.
they're the ones that build all the storage tanks locally. If you ever go towards Georgia, there's like, or South Carolina, there's this peach. I think it maybe showed up in House of Cards, where somebody ran off the road because they were taking a picture or texting about like how the South Carolina peach looks like a butt. But it's like that's
Okay.
something that this company built, and they like um they specialize in that, and they've done it for over 135 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it's like to have someone like that come in, and obviously when you have a new takeover or a new buyout, you've got to go through the management and be like, okay, what's going on here? And he was one of like the vice presidents of the company, graduated from Georgia Tech and everything. And he went in, it was supposed to be maybe like 3 months or 6 months. By the time I got there and met him, is like a year and a half in. And it's like there's so
Wow.
many more problems that need to be solved, but slowly they started to get solved, and they started really retraining people during that time. And what they had us doing wasn't engineering right off the bat, because nothing was being built, but
Right.
we went through the paperwork, and we were basically managing, we were working as liaisons, going through methodically and saying, okay, like you have this signature, this is missing here, this needs to be addressed. Like, what was the chain? Like, is this something that needs to be started over, or can we find these people? Because like
Mhm.
the person that's there that did the work, they have to sign off on it. And then once they sign off on having done the work, someone comes and inspects it. And if they don't verify that they inspected it and the work was good to go, scrap it, start all over. It doesn't matter
Oh my
how good
God.
it was. It's like,
Oh no.
and it's like
Oh
you have
no.
you have different levels of checks and balances. So you have like
Oh my goodness.
the welder, he has to get off, he has to be trained properly. So if he's not trained, his work is trash. You have the weld engineer, he verifies what the welder does. So he's like, okay, the weld looks good. Like everything is fit. You use not
Right.
only the right metal, you use the right procedure, you use the right technique, and it fits. So as soon
Mhm.
as he gives his okay, cool, it moves on. Then you have the quality guy. They look for like the cleanliness of it. They look for making sure that the strength and everything's supposed to work. Like they're like kind of the last line of defense. If at any
Okay.
point during that process something fails, they'll do a rework, and that's more paperwork and more paperwork and more paperwork. But it's like it really takes and I was talking with my buddy Brad, kind of checking back. It's like you're doing all of this in different environments. It's like it's confined, and safety is a big deal. So a lot
Mhm.
of people will try to sacrifice safety for
Right.
production. And it's like, you can't do that. It's like you've got to maintain safety, maintain quality of the product, and then you can have the outcome. But as many people will say it, they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, we always push safety first. But it's like more times than not, you always see managers like, of course you have to keep a schedule, because like
Right.
let's not make bones about it,
Right.
you
Right.
have to make money on the project, otherwise
Mhm.
it's a waste. Like you have, everybody's salary counts on this. But it's like if you're pushing the schedule so much so that you're ignoring quality, you're ignoring safety, people are getting hurt, people are getting injured over and over and over again, it's like everything comes to a stop, and
Mhm.
now nobody's getting paid. So it's like all that rushing that you wanted to do, that deadline you wanted to meet, now that you're 4 years behind because
Yeah.
you neglected the
Takes a
quality to
long
start with,
time.
then it's
Yeah.
like,
This
yeah,
is why I like coding, because you get a yes or no so quick. You
right,
know, a line of code, you're gonna know if that's gonna work or not. And
right.
it just, yeah, it worked with my personality. I just, yeah, I guess I worked with coding. Coding just wasn't for me, but that seems
Why
like
is
a
that
lot
that it
of
wasn't for
rework.
you?
I was for coding it. I because of I think it was the environment in which I would have gone into.
Okay.
Um, because, unfortunately, mothers or women
Hmm.
are the ones that stay home the most.
Right.
And it was just not in the cards for me to work outside the home. So,
Gotcha.
this is how I became,
Right,
fell
right.
into teaching, because I thought, I'm going to get down to Texas and I'm going to find me a job.
Hmm.
Still couldn't find a job. And so someone said, why don't you just substitute teach? You have the education. I was like,
Hmm.
I don't want to be in a classroom with some bad behind kids, because I fight kids. I will, I'm going to fight your kid.
Right,
Not really, but I'm going to get in another kid's behind. You know
right.
better than that. Don't do that. So, yeah, that's how I fell into substitute teaching, and now I'll
Gotcha.
be a teacher. But it wasn't my thing. But now that I look at it, I can see why. I'm off with my kids in the
Hmm.
summer times every weekend. It's a set hour. I'm in at 7, out at
Yeah,
3. Like,
yeah.
that's a good window. And then my kids are at school.
Right.
So it's a win-win all around.
Cool.
Holidays, I'm off. I don't
Yeah.
have to ask for these holidays or days off. It's
Right.
just a given.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's it. So I can see why it fits, and I can see
Right.
why that other career would not have fit for
Right.
me. It just wouldn't have been good for myself and my kids.
I got you.
So I have now placed project management as a personal thing. I
Mhm.
am my own project. And
Right.
so that's how I use my education on my business, myself, and how I run my life.
Got you. That makes
So
sense.
yeah, that's just it. But that just seems like it would be so aggravating. So you don't practice do engineering now as a job, as a
No,
career.
no, not currently. And I guess it's funny. I feel like I did very little engineering over time, and it's like it feels like it's kind of rare to do it because as much as I said on the fabrication job, it's like being able to leave there was like by the end of it, I feel like I definitely became better at being good at following up. And I think that was the first time I did like a 365 assessment or
Yeah.
profile, where essentially you ask people questions about yourself, like how they view you, and they
Yes.
give you their honest feedback. And it was like, okay. And if I'm honest, a lot of the things that were said then are
Yeah.
some things that I haven't addressed now. And those are the things that I have to fully address to just be like, okay, um, you're very good at what you do, but you need to, like in doing the podcast, is like you need to project more when you talk. Like you need to be um present, like don't be afraid to kind of be bold.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's some other stuff on there, so I don't know right off the top of my head, so I'm not going to keep trying to just keep trying to wing it. But
Yeah.
I
I get
won't,
what you're saying,
right,
though.
I won't put myself completely down. There's a number of things that I did, and I think with that encouraged me to join Toastmasters, that encouraged me to seek um public speaking to become better. And I guess joining Toastmasters, I didn't know it, but very soon it helped me build my leadership, where it's like, okay, you don't just get good at speaking through like the practice, but like you also get good at listening. And then because sometimes you're required to give feedback, and it's like other times you're required to lead meetings, and in
Yeah.
doing that you have to coordinate with the other roles and other positions within the group, because then that teaches you how to become a better leader, because it's not just about you at the end of the day. And sometimes it's like you do need to make things about you and really separate out what you need to do personally from what you need to do at work, because it's like if you don't do enough of what you need to do personally, like take breaks and go away, spend time with friends, it's like the work stuff gets to be way too much, and
It
then
does.
that can ruin a lot of things for you.
Yeah, I can see that. Yes. And that's when saying that about like Toastmaster. I remember doing Toastmaster. I didn't completely like get into it.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that, although I can talk, like I'm talking to you and I'm
Right,
fine
right,
with being on video. My one thing is really talking on a stage. I
right.
don't know what it is. Like, I don't feel like there's like this hold on me, but there is.
Mm,
I don't know how that makes any type of sense, because I feel like I can public speak,
right.
but then I get up there and do it. I'm like,
It's
I
different.
freeze. Yeah.
Because I guess with that, it's like when you say a stage, would you consider teaching or substitute teaching like you've done already? Like, is that a stage for you that you've had a challenge with, or not so much? Yeah.
Yeah, I had a challenge with it. And I think more so because I didn't see myself as a teacher.
Right.
So now what I do is when I do substitute teach, I go in more so as not a babysitter, but I go in as a somewhat of a babysitter, like a parent
Yeah.
take on things,
Got
and
you.
more so as a mentor
Okay.
that um, just happens to know the content, and
Right.
I'm able to teach the content by way of mentoring.
Got you. Because
So
that's how you
that's
see
how,
yourself as a mentor, as a
yeah,
parent.
yeah.
That
And so
makes
I
sense.
I go into everything like that, and it's gotten me into some arguments.
Yeah.
And so I've learned that you can't mentor everybody. Everybody doesn't want to be mentored.
Right.
So um,
But
yeah, that's how I take on teaching.
got you. And I
I
guess
don't see myself as a teacher.
right.
Yes.
And I guess unbeknownst to you, that might become really, that might be what that offers you, where it's like you have this platform now where it's like you've gotten comfortable being a mentor, but like what maybe
Right.
requires that you start to understand the shift between teaching and just like there are things that you can say where it's like, okay, you're not, to be a mentor, I guess it takes a different kind of energy.
Mhm.
And you would need to, I, again, I don't know. So it's like that's one thing I'm trying not to do. It's like I'll even say I don't know yet, and I'm trying not to speak too much on things that I'm not an expert on, because it's like,
Right.
let me not try to put on as if I know something that I don't. But it's like,
Mhm.
okay, if I can take a minute to actually think about it and stop talking so much, I might be able to come up with something. But it's like in being able to listen to you, it's like I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm
Right.
just kind of giving it back to you and be like, okay, you said this, is that what you meant? Because then it's like a lot of times when you talk, you have the answers in your
You do.
conversation.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I noticed that too. So I tend to not ask questions
Mm,
because I know how I learn. And I know that, like you, if I just stop talking and I just observe
mm-hmm.
more so than um, talking and teaching, I find my answer more so than not. And
Right.
that's with a lot of things. Like recently, I got my certification, my John Maxwell certification. Now, I have been trying to get
Oh,
this for
nice.
years. I just got certified this last week.
Right.
And just because I've been able to just kind of, when I was telling you, like things have changed in my life, and that's because I meditate more and I've gone within.
Mm-hmm.
What do I need and how do I need to be? And that's kind of just opened up, which is absolutely still crazy to me. It's opened up a world of like understanding.
Right.
By quieting myself and quieting my surroundings and changing my environment to a more peaceful environment,
Hmm.
I've come to a lot of answers. And I can't explain it. I honestly cannot explain it. But in that, what I just said, that is my explanation because I have nothing else.
Right.
And so I just find that I answer a lot of my questions just by being quiet
Right.
and, and just by listening, even if listening is being in silence. I used to think, how can you listen? It's quiet. It never made sense to me.
Right.
But now I get it. Like silence is noisy. When you really put yourself in it, it's noisy.
Yeah.
And it's the right noise. It's the outside, all
Hmm.
the external stuff that is so noisy that confuses me.
Right.
So I didn't mean to go. See what I mean? I can go deep without even like it's just
Right.
instantaneous. And my pastor said that you can, without even knowing me, he said, you can go deep within seconds. I said, yeah, like because that's just me. And I thought I
Right.
was weird. Taking it back to when you said you didn't know yourself and you thought that, you know, different was bad, so to speak.
Right.
I did too until I started really knowing that me being different is actually a good thing.
Right.
There's nobody that can be you, and there's nobody else that can be me. So why not be our authentic self? And
Exactly.
when I think about that, I'm like, that right there is awesome.
Yeah. That
I
is.
love that. And so I take that also into teaching too. It's like, why be someone else? Why be the Cardi B or the Offset?
Right.
How come you can't be awesome just being yourself?
Yeah. Just be
And that's
Tamara.
how I parent. Yeah, that's how I parent too. I'm like, you're awesome just being yourself. Be you,
Right.
and you're gonna make it.
Right.
Trust me. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
No, that's good. It's funny because I know I feel like I went on a long tangent going from we started on we started on for some reason love, arranged marriages to
Yeah.
work injury to work background, engineering background. And I think you're asking me about it, but I like that we got here because I guess recently I listened to a podcast from John Maxwell, and I think it was like um I don't know exactly how it's produced, but I was like, oh, like John Maxwell's doing a thing. I'd read one or two of his books before, and I don't think I got all the way through it, but like the same, like the message rings true. And what the podcast was about, it was talking about the 5 levels of leadership.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure being certified by him is like you've probably heard of that. And
Yeah.
just as I was hearing it, I kept doing my best to put myself in the situation and not
Hmm.
try to put somebody else and be like, oh, this is so and so. Oh, this is, it's like, no, like that's also you, especially if it's like at the um at the level one leadership where it's like people may just you may just be a leader based on your title. And it's like for
Hmm.
me, I know that's something that I rejected as an engineer, where it's like I did the bit with the fabrication portion of
Right.
it where you see where the raw material comes in and it gets built into like small assemblies that are going to be built into bigger assemblies later.
Right.
And it's like part of that was um you're always starting in training, but then you got to graduate to the like, hey, you were hired for a job, even if like you're not expected to know every part of the job, but you have a leadership role, whether
Hmm.
you accept it or not, like that's your role. And
Yeah.
then that came true when I went on my first construction project. And initially I was kind of upset about it because I was like, the people are mean here. Like
I remember you saying
nobody,
that before.
huh?
I remember you saying that before.
Yeah. So it's like, I was just like, because I was told, and I wasn't only staying in Louisiana, but I was staying for a whole year. I was like, what? Because other people were like, oh, I'm going to Chicago, I'm going to Dubai, I'm going across the world. And I was like, oh my God. But it's like, I was listening to personal development. Even in spite of that, it's like, I still had that ego, had that pride come out and be like, well, what makes them so special? Which
Mhm.
a few months before I was like, imposter syndrome. Like, I don't think I belong here. It was like, did I really go to that school? Did I really graduate? Maybe I should check my mail. Like, maybe they lost my grades in there. But it's like,
Yeah,
nope. But
it was you.
yeah, and then I said all that to say the job that I got placed on for construction ended up being one of my best experiences because I was the sole field engineer there. And again, not having to do like engineering calculations and things of that sort, but being in a leadership role where it's like, okay, now you're working on facilitating um, scheduling for material.
Right.
Like you got to make
Mhm.
sure this material gets here 2 weeks in advance so that in the building process, like we're building this tank to go straight up 120 feet. I get
Mhm.
on the project maybe a month later because TSA was being TSA. But um, when I got there, it's like, okay, the guys that are doing it, they've been doing it essentially for 15 plus years. Like they know how to do this. Like I'm
Right.
not showing up to teach them anything. I'm there
Mhm.
to help them with the paperwork again. And it's like, so long as I'm not playing big headed. And I was like, hey, like, I don't care what school I went to. Like, you know something I don't know. So I'm
Mhm.
asking you for help. And it's like, they kind of always like when people don't know you, they kind of look at you from a distance, like, what's this person really about? And it's like
Yeah,
over
yeah.
time we built a good relationship. And it's like they would teach me how to like how you weld, how you clean up certain things like the grinder. It's like the big disc with the wheel on it. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with that, but
I
like
can see it, you know what I mean? Like I can
yeah,
see the by your description.
like if I guess that's the thing that I like about Home Depot now, where it's like everything's there. Like it's almost like an engineer's playground where it's like you want to always build stuff with your hands and you like have all these tools. So now it's like never
That's why
having
it works out for you, right?
yeah,
Because it's like you're having this engineer mind. You can see
right.
it.
and
Yeah.
and
Okay.
also just having that background of like focusing so much on the technical and not putting much time into actually building stuff practically. It's
Mhm.
like, oh, now I get to see like if you want to build this, this is where you find this item. Like somebody walked up to me yesterday and like asked me where they find metal detectors, and I was like, I don't know, because the the way that we work in the store is like we're responsible for stocking them. Like we don't work
Mhm.
specific stores. Like we have stores that we go to, but we're not
Right.
there every day. But it's like
Right.
some people know where stuff is. But starting out, I just tell people up front, like, I don't know, but let me find somebody that does. That way it's like
Right.
I'm not gonna waste your time try to find
Take you on
something
this
that I don't have
scavenger
a
hunt,
right.
so to
It's like
speak.
I don't have a clue. Like
Yeah. And I can
maybe
appreciate that
I'll
because
find
man,
out.
there are some people that will take you on this scavenger hunt. And before you know it, I tell them, I'm like, you could have found somebody else to do this. You didn't
Right,
have to take me all around the town.
right,
This was not necessary.
right,
So it makes a person upset, but I can so appreciate your take on, I don't know. Let me find somebody that does know so I don't waste your time.
right, right.
Like, yeah.
If I
But
haven't got anything else right, I'm just like, let me keep doing that. That seems to
yeah,
work. And like
yeah.
yesterday, for instance, it didn't work, but I didn't hear what they were saying. And I guess initially, like the person just kind of popped right up in my face because I had my headphones in. It's like I could see them, and I thought they were walking towards me. So I was like, okay, they've got a cart. Let me get out of the
Yeah.
way. But then this lady kind of cornered me, and I was like,
Popped up
oh,
in your
okay.
face.
And she was like, excuse me. I was like, oh, okay. Like I guess this social distancing thing isn't like you don't want to do that. I guess you want to get my attention. And I was like, oh, I don't know, but let me ask this gentleman up here. But she was like, oh, it kind of clicked later. She was like, we already followed him around and he wasn't helpful. And then
Mhm.
when they kind of went their own way, I went to ask him, and like his attitude was just trash. And
Mhm.
just like, I was like, oh, okay, now I can see why they're upset. Maybe they had something beforehand, but like he didn't do a good job of helping them like we're taught to help people. Like you got to provide good customer service.
Right. Right.
And that was one of those things I was like, oh, okay, like, I don't know.
So do you think that as you are building is it your coaching or speaking? It's like, what are you doing with your, it's your podcast. What is
Right.
it? Because, some people don't like coaching. They
Right.
just want to be a speaker. And some people don't like speaking. They just want to be a
Right.
coach, And
And
that's something I learned with John Maxwell. And I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that people don't want to coach.
right. And to your point, I'm glad you asked it, because I guess it's like we're gonna kind of like brush past it unless you brought it up, because last time I was like, yay, this thing. And it's like, I think right after our conversation, or within a month or so, I basically put that on the back burner and I hadn't done anything with it. But in doing the podcast, I guess it really started as a hobby. What I would like to do with it is continue to, not just treat it as a hobby, but treat it with more respect into like the time I'm putting with it, the study that I'm doing. And I guess as it regards to speaking, I want to continue to speak to people like this.
Yeah.
I don't really have aspirations to get in front of people and speaking, but at the same time, it's like, if I'm asked to in the future, like, I'm going to put my pride to the side depending on what the situation is. If it's like something that's needed because other people spoke to me when I was younger, and it's like that had an impact, some like more positive than negative. So it's like, don't get so caught up. But like my aspiration isn't to become a speaker. And also with the coaching, actually seeing what I was doing before and what it wasn't. Like I went in thinking that I was getting one thing, and it didn't quite shake out like that. And I guess one of the things I kind of told myself is like, it could be true or false, where it's like the truth of the matter is, like, I kind of went in with false expectations, and it's like they were met or unmet for whatever reason. And actually what I'm going to be doing this weekend and the next weekend is getting the full picture of what I was looking for, because I was like, okay, like disc is the thing everybody knows and it's talked about, but one thing that came off very quickly from what I'd heard about it before, or the people that were speaking on it, is that even in going to one or two trainings, it's like being, I guess, being analytical. It's like you hear things that are said and the other people, they don't hear it. They just hear kind of like the top surface stuff. And it's like when like the disc is supposed to show how people, or I think it's either how people like to show up in the world. It doesn't measure like this, like you're not a letter, you're not a character, you're not a this. It's like those things are there to help paint a picture, but it's like I think way too many people got caught up in either being told they were one thing and like categorizing people as that thing. And it's like, no, you're already, a lot of people that kind of sets them off or upsets them, because it's like you've grown up your whole life like that. Like people are always telling you what you are and what you're not. And when you take this test, whichever one you take, it's like it provides you information. And it's like that information can be clarity, or it can be very muddied. Like it could put you in a worse position than where you started. And it's like, if you don't have someone that's properly trained to help you navigate that, then like they could be misleading you unknowingly. And I guess to your point, whenever you mentioned the John Maxwell part, I was like, oh yeah, that's great, because I know you were interested in this other thing. But I was like, oh, if you're already John Maxwell certified, or if you're going in that direction, you're kind of doing the same thing. And it's like kind of picking a lane and sticking with it, because although kind of, I guess, back to the arranged marriage thing, didn't know this correlation was going to come in, but like sometimes just having one option works to your favor, because it's like you have to make it work, as to where if you have all these options, like it's like, well, I could get
Yeah,
this and I
it's
could
too
get this,
much.
and then
Yep.
you just stay confused. And it's like,
Yep.
when you're confused, you think you're lazy, you think you procrastinate, you think you're all these negative things, but it's like, no, you just don't have a clear sense of direction.
Yeah. And I like this because with John Maxwell, the track, so they have a couple of tracks. It's the business track or it's the people track.
Right.
So, and you can do either one. But they advise you to do one first. Do not try to go out here and, like you said, you have all these choices and you're trying to do each one of them. You can't become an expert at anything if you have so many things on your plate. And so at first I was like, yeah, I want to, do the business track. But in order to do the business track, you have to know people.
Right.
You can't, you have to do both.
Yeah.
So I started with I changed it and I'm doing the people track. And as I'm listening to these videos and really taking it all in, I'm finding that not only does this help me in dealing with people outside of my world, being that I'm an introvert, it's helping me with teaching and teaching young adults at that.
Right.
Because I feel like I have allergies. I have this fan going, and then seasons is changing, and so I've been sneezing. So my allergies are like crazy. You're not getting the EA count, so stop it. Go do some work. I'm not doing that for you because I said so. I'm not doing it right now. Nope, it's a no. It is a no. No. So
I forget who says that. It's like the American Idol. It's a no for me. It's a no.
No, I already turned on. It's either one or the other, and I turned on an account, a game. I control his games because he will stay on a game forever. Get that out of his face.
He's trying to share it.
Yeah, and go. Now go play. And I'm like, yes, I did, and I'm gonna turn it off.
You're gonna get chased outside, man.
So this helps me in teaching. So I get that when I did the DISC assessment, I did it twice. I did with the brand prep, and then I did it with my my life coach.
Yeah.
And both came out the same.
Right.
And I don't think I'll ever want to change. It kind of, for me, it clarified a lot of what I already knew.
Right.
I wasn't for sure.
Gotcha.
So it really just clarified and allowed me to stay on this path because it makes sense when I was questioning, like, where do I go with this?
Right.
Hence why teaching makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
And that's part of my DISC assessment too. And it just blows my mind how people tell you, the right person will tell you who you are and what you'll be good at.
Right.
And then there's some people that think they know and will tell you this other thing. And if you listen to the wrong person, you will definitely go down and be confused and go down this wrong road. But if you're talking to a genuine person and they really can see, and I feel like that was the brand prep. I feel like it was just too aggressive for me at times because of what I was going through. And so now I think I can get into it and be like, okay, I have a clearer mind.
Right.
And I can really take this on. But like you, I can't see myself speaking on a stage. However, I do see myself doing like YouTube and creating videos because I feel like it's, you know what I mean? I feel like it's more of a.
But it's funny when you say kind of, I guess I've been thinking about this recently because I told a coworker of mine this from the experience I've had with BU. I haven't been active lately, but like the things that stuck with me have stuck with me for good reasons. It's like we have to be careful of how we speak to ourselves. When you say I can't, it's like, and then when you say but, like arguing for your limitations, it's like there are some limitations you can argue for, and then there's some more times than not that you shouldn't. And it's like don't forget that the stage, it doesn't need to be a stadium, it doesn't need to be a speaking stage like the people that we see speak, but your stage needs to continue to be your classroom, your room, like your command of that space to where it's like, okay, if somebody wants to act out, instead of you may be feeling a type of way about Cardi B or whatnot, it's like, oh, you can pull a lesson from it. Like there's ratchetness there, but like you kind of put a strainer through, and it's like, okay, like we'll smack it, we'll smack the ratchetness with a fly swatter, so to speak, but then we'll
Yeah.
let some of the lessons kind of come through it, and just
Yes,
like, hey, there, everyone can teach you something, even
that's
like
true.
if you're willing to learn.
And if you change your perspective, right? Because everything is a lesson. And that's how I look at it. I used to think, oh, I hate the way my parents, like I had a stepdad and my mom married this crazy animal. And I hated the way I was raised.
Mm.
But now that I think about it, I see, how can I put this? It helped me to see people. It helped me to really be aware. I never thought of the way I was raised as being good. I thought it was like just bad. It's like
Right.
who wants to be raised like that, especially a female.
Right.
But I see that now as I'm very picky in who I allow in my life.
Right.
Because I see people. I have this discernment and I see people. I
Right.
see, people's energy. And if you rub, like I just can't. I don't talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And like on Facebook, I deleted my entire friend list.
Right.
Because I felt like people's their point of view or whatever, their posts was kind of really integrating into who I was. And I was like, I don't like how people use Facebook or use social media for that matter.
Right.
So I shut down a lot of things. I will never go back. And I can honestly say this, I'll never do another Instagram. I'll never do it because I'm not that person that takes pictures and post pictures and be fake. That is just not me. And I feel like Instagram is a lot of that. Right. What I am is a YouTube type person, which is crazy to me because I'm such an introvert. And so that's just like, that is just, it's crazy, but I'm taking it on because I now view my upbringing as a lesson and how I can teach other people and how I can mentor other people from the lessons that I've learned. So that's how I view it all now. That's good. It's eye-opening for me. So yeah, I enjoy it now when I never did. I was trying to hide how I was raised, and now it's like, but what if I view it this way? So yeah. And then I was listening to Super Soul Sunday with Oprah and Shonda Rhimes. I don't watch any of Shonda Rhimes' show. I don't like them. The whole McDreamy.
Who is that? Shonda Rhimes.
What show is that? It's this hospital. It's almost like ER. Okay. It's almost, but I can't think of the name of it. Okay. And it's everywhere. Well, and she does How to Get Away with Murder. Okay. She's the creator, the producer, whatever on that. She said something. She said, I never wanted to be married, but I've always wanted to have kids. To have that level of truth in your life, when she said that is so big to know that of yourself. And I said, I can see why. I can see why she could say, or she said, I never want to be married. Having a male presence and knowing me, I give my all to whatever I do. That is just who I am. I cannot half-ass anything. Because if I do, I feel like in engineering, you have to go back over it. Right. I don't like going back over anything. So I'm going to give my all to a situation. And that's what you have to do in relationships. And I think I don't want to give myself to a relationship, but I do not mind being a parent. I do not mind giving myself to kids. Hence why teaching makes so much sense. And it all comes back to teaching, right? Because it's like, I get it now. I so get it now. Everything goes back to teaching, whether it's in a classroom or on YouTube, which brings me to, why aren't you teaching?
Well, we'll get to that.
It's because they need more Black, not just women, but male teachers.
Right. And I guess it's funny. I guess I heard what you said, but now I just kind of clicked in what you meant, like in actual teaching in an actual classroom, because
Yeah.
given the fact that from birth my nickname has been teacher, um, I'll get. It's some. I guess the honest answer is like I've been in the Jonah syndrome, where it's like you're given a task to do and you run away from it, and you think,
Mm,
okay, if I run and hide on this boat, if I run and hide in this room, if I run and hide under my covers, like
yeah.
the world goes on, nothing will be amiss,
Yeah.
everything will kind of be okay. But
Yeah.
it's like in starting back the podcast, I guess that's my journey into embracing teaching and
Okay.
going back into, okay, I'm not only going to study the disc, but I'm going to study myself through the entire assessment as it's been kind of put together. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've ever seen it, but I guess they have this thing called advanced insights, where it's like they've taken the disc and two other tests where it's like one, um, the disc measures like your behavior,
Right.
and then you have the other test that measures your values, like why it is why it is that you do the things that you do. Because a lot of
Right.
times people, I think, where they try and tell you the wrong thing, it's like they don't know why, and it's like you know why internally, but it's like to be able to see it on a clear piece of paper similar to what the disc would bring, it it takes out part of the guessing work.
Right.
And it's like understanding that about myself, it's like, okay, I know why something motivates me and why something doesn't. So if you're going to say, hey, we've got a sales quota, like I might not necessarily be turned on by that. I might not be motivated by that. It's like, okay, now I know what I value and what
Mhm.
value I place on these things. And then the last thing is understanding your attributes, how your brain processes information. It's like, obviously, I know analytical, this, that. And it's
Yeah.
like, by studying that more, I can be like, okay, this is my process in dealing with the information. This is what I'm going to do naturally. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, maybe in this study, it'll be like, okay, I'll spend a little bit less time focusing on the details. Like my subconscious can do that, but like this person asked me this, so like hear their question and pause, think,
Yeah.
respond,
Yeah.
versus like if you don't have an answer, say you don't have an answer. Like
Right.
don't dilly dally. And it's like
Yeah.
you have to be comfortable where it's like if somebody's mean mugging you or whatnot, it's like, hey, do we have a problem? Like you
Yeah.
can be joking about it. You don't have to be. It's what I'm learning through. I guess I'm gonna go through this process this weekend, but it's like it's what I've been going through with coaching and with counseling, like getting that for myself, where
Yeah.
it's having someone that's had a mastery of, and I think it's talking with Regina. I know I didn't, I don't know if I sent you her information or if you guys were ever
I
able to
think you
connect.
did. I just didn't contact her because, again, like I was getting into brand prep. I had been going through a lot of stuff that
Mhm.
I wasn't, I thought I was taking care of,
Right.
but I was taking care of the wrong thing.
Gotcha.
So now I'm taking care of the right things and things are moving
Right. Right.
along. Hence why I could get
Right.
certified.
Right.
So I think you did, but I didn't
Gotcha.
contact.
Well, I mean, regardless, it's like I think from what you just said, if nothing else, I want to say that was a big win of 2020 for me.
Mhm.
At least it's like part of it was like I stopped doing. I know I picked up too much at the start of the year, and it's
Mhm.
like the one thing I wanted to maintain was the podcast. Like I feel
Right.
like I got overwhelmed going overseas, and I guess not too far, but going out of the mainland of the country and trying to
Mhm.
work through something, and then just like basically throwing my hands up, because like a lot of the activities that I'd built up as the self-care activities, I made way too much of that into the gram into trying to learn too many things at once. So it's like now scaling it back. It's like start posting some of the older podcasts, start
Yeah.
recording newer podcasts. And it's like just focus on that activity. And it's like, okay, I'm going to start looking into sponsorship and like, how do I monetize this? But don't let it become so paralyzing. Like, let things, I think Regina says this thing to me all the time, and it's like, be open and unattached. Like, be open to
It's
what
so good.
comes, but like, don't feel like you have to be attached to this thing forever, because then it's like that will limit you to what might come next. And I
Yeah.
was like, I was like, yeah, I'm nodding my head when I'm listening and I'm writing it down, but I'm like, even last night when I was, or this last night or this morning, sometimes the days kind of get mixed up, but it's like
I bet they do.
when we're talking about where I messed up, it's like, okay, I've got to be open to the rebuke that I'm receiving right now and unattached. It's not personal, because afterwards he's like joking. He's like, oh man, you're so, he's like saying it with more and more comedy to it. And I was like, now I can let go of it, because in that moment that we talked, I said, you're right. I messed up. I stopped trying to defend myself. I stopped trying to carry the weight of like this, like, are you working the right job? Are you not searching for the job? Are you not? It's like, okay,
Mhm.
I know what I'm not doing and I know what I am doing. Like,
Right.
okay, I haven't been doing this. This needs to be a focus for this month. Like, I started drawing up schedules or calendars, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to make this calendar for this. Like, here's what I'm doing for the podcast.
Mhm.
Sunday, put out the countdown calendar. Tuesday or Monday, put out like the teaser. Tuesday, put out the podcast. And it's like Wednesday, I don't know yet. Just leave it blank. Thursday,
Yeah.
do a throwback episode, show some of the clips that we didn't post last year. And it's like, hey, that works. It gives people something. And I had to write this down for myself. I got back to journaling with my little panda planner. I feel like I've filled up 7 of these like over the
Oh,
last,
let's not go into, I have so many journals. Like
right.
oh my
But it's
goodness.
like this one has definitely been a game changer for me. And it's
Yeah.
like I hope to have something. I hope to have this as like a first sponsor for the podcast, but I guess fingers crossed on that. But I'll something that reminds me of this, and it's something I wrote down, was that I need to practice delaying my impulse to just post, my impulse to just do something in the moment for like that instant high. Because it's like with me over posting like I did, I feel like last year and the year before, it's like, yeah, I was getting a lot of 3 times a day posting like a lot of things. It's like part of it was posting music or something that I wanted to share, something I was feeling. And it's like I used a lot of the Instagram and stuff, just like I want to do it for myself to where I can look back at it. But I was like, okay, if I'm being serious about this as a business, if I really want something for myself, I'm listening to the music. Like,
Right.
I'm not going to forget that I'm listening to the music. I saved it. I have a playlist for it. Like, calm down. It's not, oh, the song's good. The song's good. The world needs to
Okay,
know it.
I
It's like,
know.
just
Yeah.
chill. And I was like, at first I wrote down, don't, and I was like, well, let me not use such like a negative, because like, I didn't like being told, don't do this, don't do that. And I was like, okay, instead of don't, just say delay, like kind of
Mhm.
delay that gratification. Because I was like, okay, as much as I may want to post the countdown, say at 2 p.m., because for some reason or another I moved up the podcast time to 2 p.m., and I'm just gonna leave it there. It's like, stop making so many changes. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna put the countdown at 5 p.m. That way it's
Mhm.
like it'll go past it. Like, I posted it yesterday, I posted it Sunday, reposted it yesterday. So now it's like at this time, if I'm asleep, I don't have to have it in my mind that, oh, I've got to have the
Yeah.
countdown going, because
Yeah.
it's already done. And then
Mhm.
I don't need to think about it. When I'm at work, I don't need to do anything podcasting, anything business related. I simply need to build the relationships with the people that I work with, get to know my job,
Mm-hmm.
and put my all into it. And I was reading Dennis Kimbro's book this morning, and I got back to the practice of that. I read it for myself to kind of
Mm-hmm.
like also read it to where I can get, I was like, what is that word? Like, how do you say that person's name? And then I record it. And then with recording, I was like, okay, maybe let me start editing a little bit to where it's easier to listen to. It was good initially to think, okay, I can just record and put it out and like show my mistakes, but it's like even in showing your mistakes, you can do that in a clean way or you can be
Yeah.
sloppy about it. If you just want to be lazy, like people aren't going to tune in just to be like, you just being lazy, dude. Like you
Yeah.
just cut on a camera and you hit record. You talked about nothing.
There has
And
to be a rhyme and reason to it
right,
all, even
right,
if it's something simplistic as editing. I mean, although editing is not simplistic, what I
right,
mean by that is just like not making it such a big, I got
right,
to edit and I got to add this
right,
intro and
right.
this outro. It doesn't have to be that crazy. It's
Yeah,
just editing to where it makes you look more real, more like
yeah,
a person, not some made up. And
right.
that's what I feel like video is. It's like there's some people out here that just takes it to the extreme, and I don't ever want to be that. I always want to be authentic in anything that I put out, which
Right,
means I have to step back and know that it doesn't have to go out right now. It
right.
can wait. You can just take your time. Everything does not have to be said, hence why I will not be on Instagram ever
Yeah,
again. I have a Twitter, but I don't really post on that. And I'm thinking
yeah,
about deleting my Facebook. So I don't know, I don't know.
yeah.
I'm like you. I just I want to be authentic in everything that I do,
Right,
and my relationships, all of it, and just living. And that's something I tell my counselor. I said, I need it. It's something that I desire to be authentic because I can't keep up with lies.
hmm.
It's
Oh
too much
no.
to keep up.
you you and
It's
me
too
both
much.
is like, ooh, did I tell this the right way? It's like,
Right.
okay, I'm just gonna tell myself I
Yes.
lied,
Yes.
and
And I
it's
had
not-
to do that with the counselor. I said, I didn't tell the whole truth last week because I said it was an FBI investigation. I said no, it was just like a police investigation. It was just a whatever they call their investigation,
Mhm.
whatever department.
Right,
I
right,
said so. I That was not the truth.
mhm.
Um. So yeah, I get that though, right? Because it's like everything that you put out, one, I want it to be genuine. And
Right,
two, it doesn't have to be, let's put that out right now. Let's because I need them to know this.
right,
They'll know it. It'll get there.
right.
And I think it's part of grooming. It's part of growing up. It's part of
Yeah,
like really taking your business serious. Because
yeah,
social media have you thinking that you gotta be up with everybody else.
right.
Like you don't even have to do that. Take it a little bit at a time.
Yeah, and it goes back to that who you're listening to because I know I got a lot of good things from Nikki and Jose and from brand prep and things, and I was like, one thing I had to be conscious of is like every time that somebody is talking, it's like if you're very conscientious, you always have this pressure of like you want to be the best. So whenever
Yeah.
someone says something, it always feels like, oh, they're talking to me. And it's
Yes.
like they're not always talking to you. Like even if you feel a certain type of way, like the thing that you're feeling might be like you just need to get over that
Gotta get over
anxiousness.
yourself.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and say
Right. I
it.
mean, you got to, well, yeah, you got to get over yourself. But I was like, I was trying to put it in a positive spin because it's like you've got to get over yourself, but out at the same time, it's like you got to you've got to stop thinking that like everything's always right or die because it's like it may be, but not in the way that you think. Where it's
Right.
like a lot of times there's a talk about like grind, 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 grind. It's like okay,
Yeah.
well put things into perspective. Yes, there's hard work that you can be doing, but like
Mhm.
before you can do the work, you got to make sure you're resting. Like if you're not resting and if you're working on the wrong things, like you already have a job. Like
Yeah.
if you're not doing that job properly and now you're going to go start another thing, like that's a lot of wasted energy. And you
It
can go
is.
to the job and grumbling. It's like the thing that kind of, I mean, to each his own, but like a thing that kind of stood out to me, I've interviewed a lot of people being entrepreneurs, and
Yeah.
what a lot of people say is just like, oh, this is about the job, that, and it's like, I get that, but it's like,
Mhm.
let's not be so dismissive about just jobs, quote unquote, as whatever they are. It's like, okay, you might not like the job, but the job pays you immediately. It didn't
Right.
require you to go out and go get the thing, but it's like maybe you do need to go out and get the thing, and that would make you feel better about yourself, about your self-worth. Because it's like if somebody's making you feel worthless, it's like you're basically you're basically being asked to show up to get a paycheck, but it's like, hey, like somebody is asking you to come do a thing and they're giving you money for it. So
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know where it's like, okay, is the money justified your value, or is it justified? It's like, okay, and maybe that's getting too deep, but it's like, put things into perspective. It's not like,
Yes.
oh, screw all jobs, screw corporate. It's like there are good environments, there are bad environments, and it's like there's things for your personalities and there's things that don't work. Whereas you'll have some people out here doing 5, 10 different jobs, and it's like, hey,
Yep.
if it works, cool. But then it's like, if you have a job that's meant for you, but you're too prideful to just be like, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not working for no. It's like, yeah, maybe you might want to stop the neck rolling and the finger snap and just like cut that for a minute, like cut yourself off and just
Yeah.
like do what you
Chill.
know you should be doing. And when I say
Yeah.
that, I'm not attacking anybody. I'm really talking to myself, because it's like that's what I had to kind of confront last night. It's like, okay, I messed up.
Hmm.
I thought this, I was wrong. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
Stop. Do you need help? Oh no. Well, it's like I could get done. And it's like it's not going to hurt you to have help.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're moving along, but like just take the help.
Yeah.
You're
Because
not any
sometimes,
less.
the help is going to it speeds things up. We
Yeah,
think that doing it on our own speeds it up, and
right.
it's not. And I tell my boys that you're trying to do things on your own, but if you ask for help, you may find an easier route to your
True.
answer.
True.
So yeah, and I get you. I'm speaking to the choir too because I'm used to and I know where it comes from. And I told my counselor this, I know where the independence come from. And I'm trying to break this habit because
Mhm.
it does get me. I'm like, I messed up. So I have to redo something.
Right.
And so I said it comes from my childhood. Another part of my childhood that was a negative thing.
Mhm.
However, I'm turning into this positive thing by turning it into a teachable lesson
Right.
or mentoring somebody on. We cannot live by ourselves. We need people,
Mhm.
whether it's to help do something, to kind of clarify something. We need community. We do. It's pertinent that we have community.
Right.
That is the only way we thrive. If it's just like you and I talking here or having a group of more people, it's still a community.
Right.
Um, and I love brand prep. I love Nikki and Jose, and I learned a lot, but they are just on another
Right.
whole other level that I don't know if I'll ever be ready for it.
Mhm.
I
And
don't
that's
know.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like
And
being able to realize that it's like, okay, I'm either here or I'm not there, or this is for me or this isn't for me. And it's like you can still be friends. Like you don't need
yeah.
to, like, how do they say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like just because one thing didn't work out, it doesn't mean that like nothing works out. Because
Right.
one thing that I think Jose says that rings true, and it's kind of one of those things that I'm doing in the process. It's like the best thing about I guess you can see it kind of two ways, because when people talk about branding, it's like, oh, I've got to create this thing. But it's like, no,
Yeah.
you've really got to get to express who you are. You got to talk about who you are as a person. So if you're not clear
Yep.
about yourself, you could be putting on, you're like, oh, that person's putting on, they're putting on makeup. It's like, you don't know, maybe that's their thing. Like, they love it. Like,
Yeah.
they put it on, they take it off, they go here. It's like, you don't know what happens when the cameras turn off. And
Yeah.
it's like, of course, there have been many cases of people with social media, especially. It's like, you have the highlight reels, and when the camera turns off, it's like people go into depression, people
Yep.
hate themselves and different things like that. But it's like, you you focus so much attention on creating a spectacle that you didn't spend enough time considering yourself, and you spent way too much time seeking other people's approval. You stop approving and affirming yourself, and it's
Yeah.
like, that's a very dangerous thing when
It is.
society stands you up as like, oh, you're this great thing. It's like, if you ever let that go to your head, like, and you don't have anyone in your corner to help you, or to just be like, hey, sit your butt down somewhere, I don't care
Yeah.
what title, whatever you got, like, I need you
Somebody
over
that's going to
there
be
doing
honest
this.
with you.
Right.
You need that. Again, you need community, but the right community.
Right.
Um, and why this is why also I needed to take a break. I was feeling like I was allowing external things to tell me who I was.
Right.
And it was not only the environment, it was certain people.
Right.
Um, and I had to really figure out who I was.
Hmm.
And for a lot of that, um, I pretended that I wasn't who I really was. For
Right.
instance, I want to be able to speak the truth and not be afraid that it'll hurt somebody's feelings.
Right.
I don't want to purposely hurt your feelings, but if I have something to say, then I'm going to say it and
Yeah.
it's okay with it. And I know where that comes from. I wasn't
Right.
allowed to speak my truth as a little girl. I was always shut down. So I
Hmm.
carried that into my adulthood. And so now I'm just like, it's okay to speak your mind. It's okay to be you.
Right.
If you're not you, then who are you?
Yeah.
Then you're again these lies, these airs that we put on. And it's like, it's not a good, healthy. I was literally getting sick,
Mm.
um, where it wasn't depression. I was physically sick
Yeah.
and I couldn't figure out what it was. And once I did, doing blood work, all of that came back fine.
Yeah.
It was just me not being who I am,
Right.
not being authentically me. So, now I'm like, now I can do it. Now I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Now I don't have to rush into anything and just be somebody that somebody else says that I am.
Right.
It's okay to be me, and because I'm going to attract the people that like me for me.
Right.
And that's your what they say, your tribe, so to speak. That
Right.
is who you are going to be talking to. And it makes sense to me.
Yeah. And
It
I
completely makes all
yeah,
types of sense to me.
I think that's I was gonna say, that's the main thing that they highlighted, where it's like, you don't have the following that you have because people have to know, like, and trust you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get that. And really, really, I guess what we're talking about seems like it's really personal development. And it's like, you got
Yeah.
to remember that it's personal. And as much as you might do a coaching call or planning or this, it's like, if you don't ever give yourself that's why it's like, I step back from all calls, I step back from all social media. And I think I spent a long time just like goofing off online, watching movies I would never think to watch. I went through like the whole Amazon Prime playlist and different things like that. I played a whole lot of solitaire, watched a lot of YouTube and other things. And it was like, I didn't feel so bad, because I was like, I'm doing things that I want to do at my pace. But now it's like, in doing the personal development work at my pace, it's that I'm addressing a lot of the things that they said, And it's like they were just putting things out at their pace because it's like they're speaking to a wider audience. Like it feels
Yeah.
personal because it's intended that way. Like when you speak something that's very true, it's that. Like whenever you have everybody's putting out a podcast,
Yep.
everyone's putting out something, if not every week, almost every day. So it's like, again, back to that overload of information. There's thousands, millions, billions of books you could read, but it's like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe you get into one group and it's like, I'm going to read this one book. And like,
Mhm.
and even reading that one book, like one that I started a few years back, I think that got me to start the podcast, was 12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson.
I've seen that.
And I started reading it. I maybe got to chapter 3, and then I started doing the self-authoring program that he had, and I got farther along in it. But it's like every time I'd start doing something, it's like, yeah, you can read multiple books at a time, but sometimes like not the same type of book. And then I watched somebody's video on it where they talked about, and it just hit me when they said it. They're like, they read a chapter a month and they worked on applying that chapter to their life that month. And I was like, that's what I need to do. But then I reminded myself, I don't need to do that right now because I'm going through, whether it's counseling or coaching, I'm going through the podcast phase. Like my
Right.
goal is to continue to do the podcast and just get good at it, get comfortable with it, get to the point to where the posting of it can at least be automated, to where
Yeah.
if it's automated for say 6 months, I can still record once a week
Yes.
or twice a week and just keep that in the backlog, but
Yep.
then be able to pursue something fully and just be like, okay, hey, it reminded me of college. Like, how is it that, as much as like the thing I've got to learn, I appreciate about school, and I didn't even realize it, is that when you go to school, okay, you get loaded up with like 7 courses or 5 courses or 4, however many number of courses, but
Yeah.
you only go to one class at a time. And in that class, you're there for 45
That's
minutes
nice.
to an hour and a half. That is
Right.
the only thing that you focus on. It's
Right.
like there are no other things. And that's the only way that you learn. So I was like, okay, why neglect that? Like it worked there.
Mhm.
Like now it might be a little bit more fun where it's like, okay, you watch a video for like 3 to 4 minutes, but that's like if you're really going to study something. And I think
Right.
that's what they talk about, different people and different coaches, but it's, I'm sure that's what they would get into with somebody one-on-one coaching. But it's like, instead of feeling bad about getting so much information, you're not applying it, to
Yeah.
then going the extreme of signing up for way too many things you can't do at once and
Yes.
spending all this money. And now you're like, did I just waste all this money? Was that like a dumb investment? And it's like, crap, I spent that. I thought I was going to get it back. I didn't get it back. But it's like, it all stems from, okay, regardless of what the other person did, I know that if I claim some ownership in it, I can do something about it. But if it's
Yeah.
somebody else's fault, I can't do anything about it. Like, okay, I spent the money for this course. Don't do it again. Like,
Yeah. I've
don't,
done that too.
right. And it's like, of course, everybody's doing the marketing,
Yep.
everyone's doing the ads run. It's like they're targeted ads. So I know if I'm on Facebook, there's going to be an ad from somebody that I like, that
Yeah.
they're going to speak to something I need. So I'm like, don't go on Facebook. If I go on there, check out. Like, if I go on Instagram, post something, read a
And get off.
comment, get
Yeah.
out. So it's like, just don't sit there and do that, because I'm like, I'm going to get suckered in.
You are. And you
And it's
go
like,
down this rabbit hole and it's just like, what? How much time did I spend doing this? Money that
right.
I've done it. And another reason why, it was like this long list of why I needed to get off social media.
Yeah.
And it has, the time off social media has expounded on what I really need to be doing in my life. And again, it has allowed me to move when I was stagnant. I was like, I'm trying to move, but I was trying to move with this mountain of things that I was trying to do.
Yeah.
So essentially, I was holding myself back. But yeah, that makes so much sense because let's do this course, let's do that course. And I did it and I know why I did it,
Hmm.
but I wasn't getting anywhere. So now I can, like for YouTube, I have one course for YouTube that is so good. And then I want to blog, but I want the two to melt, be together.
Right.
With my coaching, it all makes sense as to
Yeah.
my website, my YouTube, and then my coaching. It all fits.
Nice.
That's all I need. I don't need anything else.
No.
And it all goes together and I'm okay with that. I feel like
Yeah.
that's something I can handle
Right.
without going down this
No.
lane over here. Oh, there's a squirrel. Let's go get this squirrel. Or
Perfect
this
analogy.
shiny thing. It's so not good for us. And John Maxwell talks about that. Learn one thing,
Yeah.
master one thing,
Yeah.
teach one thing, and then move on to the
Right.
next. And social media is so bad for that because it's so much. It's
Yeah.
so much that we take in, and why I'm just trying to get my kids off of social media because I have one that loves TikTok and one that loves YouTube.
Hmm.
And one doing pretty good with YouTube.
Yeah.
He wants to be this gamer
Hmm.
on YouTube, and he's focusing on one thing. The other one,
Right.
I don't know what the hell he's doing. That 9-year-old, I don't know
Yeah.
what he's doing, but he's 9. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do, be a
Right.
9-year-old. And I think and eventually I want to get into parenting. And John Maxwell offers a parenting certification.
Hmm.
I would love to get into that. Being a teacher, I
Yeah.
think we are parents.
Yeah.
We're parents of a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
Um, and understanding kids and why they're going to be exactly who they're going to be.
Right.
Why do we expect them to be something other than what they aren't? There's some adults that need to be reparented. So let's discuss that first before we go and expect these kids that
Right.
are being them authentically themselves
Right.
and want them to change. Let's talk about this parent over here or this adult over here that needs a little help.
Yeah.
And I love it. So I don't know where I was going with that, but you just kind of help me. I get on these tangents and I need to kind of focus, and
Right.
I don't want to, and that's one of the reasons why I don't really post a lot on YouTube is because I go on these tangents.
Got
I
you.
don't know if that's good or bad. I'm not quite focused just yet.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess like to your point, we'll probably wrap it up here, but I think the biggest thing that we said is like focus on one thing and put a time limit on it, because it's like
Mhm.
so long as there's a time limit where it's like, okay, I can only talk for this much, or I can only, like, of course you could do more, but I'm only going to do this for this time. That way it's like it limits it, and then it puts it out in like spurts to where
Yeah.
it's like, okay. And for me, I know that now I probably I should have wrapped this up an hour ago, because I was like, I got to make sure I get in the second half nap, because I know
What
it
time do
worked
you go to
yesterday.
sleep again? 3 o'clock?
Yeah. So usually
Okay.
I try to do 3 to 5:30.
Oh, so it's 4 o'clock your time.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm going to wrap up
Oh,
now and then just lay down and kind of do like my friend told me, just think blank and don't think about racing, mind race. It's like none of that. Like the podcast went out on time like it was supposed to. The website works. I posted it on IG, and that's all I need to do. Like I think
okay.
I may do the LinkedIn thing or whatnot, but I think for now it's like just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
what's there is there, and just let it ride. And I mean, of course, another thing, like there are tools that I learned, and one thing that I realized at the start of last year, even going down to the conference, is like I knew ahead of time, like I'm here for one thing.
Yeah.
There's another conference going on, and I don't need to go there. I need to unpack what I just learned, unpack what I'm going to learn, because as soon as I go there, I'm going to have the tendency to take notes.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then I'm not going to do anything with that information for who knows, years or never.
Right.
And it's just going to be something neat to be like, oh, look at all my notebooks. And it's
Yep.
like, what
I
about
totally
him?
understand that. Yeah,
But
I get it.
just grateful for the experiences and grateful for the conversations. It's great to catch up with you.
It is. Thank you for reaching out. I appreciate it. It's always nice.
Anytime.
We have good conversations, but again, I'm allowing the universe really to bring me who needs to be in my life, because I'll just talk to anybody. I will. And it just be like, why did I even start that conversation?
Yeah. And I guess if nothing else, the even in reaching back out to the previous guests and just connecting, I'm trying to be intentional in the way that like I could get a lot done quick, but there's no need. And the timing will work itself out as it should be. Like we were kind of talking, it's like, oh, you're free now. This could work. And it worked. So it's like, I stopped stressing about it and stopped like trying to overdo it. It's like, okay, you're already here. Like this isn't the one thing you need to be doing for today. Like that one thing has been addressed. If there's time, do it. But the real one thing is rest.
Yes.
So rest and go on. Like once the rest is completed, all the other things can get taken up one at a time.
Of course. And stay hydrated. I don't know if you drink your water, but stay hydrated. Awesome. All right. Well, it was good catching up with you. And I like your podcast.
Appreciate it. Oh, I was gonna say your episode should be coming up in 4 weeks, I think.
So right quick, I know you have to go. Where are you posting that?
So it's actually, I think this month we started doing the editing, and I think this one that went out today had like an intro, like a cool intro that my man Donald the Voice did, and it's gonna be on YouTube as well as it's always on the audio platforms like Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Google, the whole lot. So I was gonna ask you for yours. I don't know if you clicked on the link and if you saw the title, but I said
that C-section thing. I'm like, what C-section?
Is that right? Well, because I thought that's what you said, that your focus was on, like you worked with women that had C-section and the project manager. Like I put it and I was like, something's wrong with that title. Maybe I need to go back through and just like redo it, because it's like I don't know if that title makes sense or if that clicks with you.
But it was at the time though, because I was doing fitness, and although I want to get back into fitness, my whole coaching thing has changed, like you were saying, and I was trying to focus on so much and it wasn't working. So now it's
maybe the title will make sense for the time where it's like we're both trying to figure out in this time, and it's like it's like C-section core manager. It's like it just needs to change. It just does not roll off the tongue.
But I mean, you'll figure it out. I think
I'll figure it out. I got 4 weeks. I'll get something.
That's a long time.
Out.
So all right,
it'll come to me when I'm not trying to think about it.
Always. That's when and you'll just have to jot it down.
Cool.
All right, Asher, you have a good night at work. I got your
approval. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because it's like, nope, it doesn't work. I didn't think so either.
I was looking at that. I was like, I don't know where he got that from, but
next time, tell me something. Just be like, no. Just be like, no, and I'll be like, thank you. I'm sitting here like, does she like it? Does she not? Like,
yeah, that was a little weird. But I mean, I understand it. Now I get it.
Right.
So. You have a good night at work. Be safe. And I'll talk to you later. Again, I love your podcast. I do. I think you should have a radio show.
One thing at a time.
I know, but you have a radio voice.
Thank you.
You do. You have it just transcends, I think, really well doing type of podcast radio thing. So
thank you. I received it.
You're on a good path here.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye, Asher.
Bye, Tamara.
This is the It's My Time podcast with Asher Tchoua.